What's the secret? Picture this, it's December 2023. I'm at a restaurant in Dublin having dinner with friends who work in senior roles in various organizations. The conversation turns to workplace well-being. Then one of my friends shoots me an exasperated look and says simply, "What's the secret?" It's not the first time I've been asked this question since I moved into the workplace well-being industry. I get asked it a lot, and I'm sure many of the experts in this room do too. It seems everyone wants to know the secret to improving employee well-being. But are we asking the right question? Is there a secret? Or is that the stuff of movie plots and fairy tales? Like one of my favorite fairy tales, The Wizard of Oz. Now, in case anybody here is not familiar with that classic story, let me give you a 30-second rundown. Dorothy was a Kansas girl who got swept up by a tornado and landed in a place called Oz. Desperate to find her way home, she heard of a magical wizard who could help. So, she followed the yellow brick road to the magical Emerald City where that wizard lived. Along the way, she encountered a scarecrow, a tin man, and a lion, who were also seeking the wizard for their own purposes. And there were also some flying monkeys. And a witch. They were evil. Anyway, you're pretty much caught up now. But I wonder, have we, perhaps through the Hollywood influence, been conditioned to believe that beyond our yellow brick road is a wizard-like solution that will miraculously fix everything? I like to think we're not that naive. But yet, when it comes to workplace well-being, far too many organizations across the world today are still defining a handful of surface-level interventions aimed at individuals as their work well-being strategy. Now, the conversation on this slide is tongue-in-cheek, but trust me, it's based on a true story. You might have seen some research from one of my colleagues, Dr. William Fleming, go viral earlier this year. He analyzed data from over 46,000 employees and found that various individual-level interventions, including some wellness apps and relaxation-based classes, had no effect on improving mental well-being for employees in those organizations. Now, this research is not saying that such interventions should not be rolled out at all. Rather, it is highlighting that in isolation, they are not the secret to solving something as complex as improving employee well-being at scale, and certainly not without any organizational change. Because the truth is, there is no one singular secret, just like, spoiler alert, there actually was no wizard in The Wizard of Oz. It turned out to be an ordinary man with absolutely no magical powers, operating a frankly very impressive hologram for a movie made in 1939. Now, I've fallen into this trap of looking for the secret myself. In the early part of my career, I moved from Emerald City Employer to Emerald City Employer, searching for that elusive secret to my own work well-being. Over the years, I've worked in Emerald Cities where I got free food, free massages, on-site exercise and relaxation-based classes, all sorts of wellness app and branded company swag. You name an Emerald perk, and I probably got it at some point in my career. But when those shiny perks and benefits were stripped back, none of it really amounted to much. I had little say in my workload and little control over my schedule. I often wanted to avail of those perks, helpful perks like relaxation-based classes and my personal favorite, gentle reformer Pilates classes. But I didn't have time, genuinely. Top self-care method for me. But I didn't have time. In the early part of my career, I was often in the office after midnight, and I was never alone. And I didn't feel safe to voice my fears, to voice my concerns, out of fear that I may lose my job. So, I ended up burnt out. And I know I'm not alone. The World Health Organization... Sorry, hang on one second. I don't have time to go to gentle reformer Pilates in 15 minutes. My inbox is drowning in unread emails, and I've just had a completely unreasonable last-minute request from a very demanding client, and my manager completely unsupportive. Despite the fact that I'm drowning in work, they said, stop moaning and just do it. That is a JFDI. But my gentle reformer Pilates class is such a core part of my self-care routine. I really want to go. I can't go. I'm going to have to dismiss it. Okay, where was I? Burnout. No, you know what? That's thrown me. That's really thrown me. Sorry, I'm a bit stressed. Tell you what. I have a breathing exercise that can help center me during times like this. Could you help me? Could I get you to stand up and do it with me? So stand up, and together we're going to do a very simple, very straightforward breathing exercise. Okay. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, or else simply lower your gaze. Now inhale deeply, filling your lungs completely. And then exhale slowly. Feel the tension leaving your body with each breath. I'm going to do that again. This time, take a deep breath in and feel the positive energy around you. And then breathe out any stress, negativity, or distractions. Okay. When you're ready, you can take a seat. Thank you for indulging in that moment of mindfulness with me. I hope you feel better. I certainly do. Intuitively, we know that there's something to this, and the science backs that up. But it cannot work in isolation. There are only so many deep breaths you can take when you keep getting hit by flying monkeys from different directions. Dorothy faced her fears as flying monkeys. In the real world, we face unrealistic workloads, time pressure, unsupportive management, toxic workplace environment, and more. These are job demands. My gentle reformer Pilates class and the breathing exercise we just did, these are resources. Other resources include flexibility over our schedule, supportive management, training for managers, all sorts of software and tools, and let's not forget employee voice and autonomy. Think of your work life like a balance scale. On the one hand, you have demands weighing it down. On the other, you have resources lightening your load. The goal is balance. An imbalance with excessive demands and insufficient resources can render those very resources ineffective. That's why organizations need a holistic work well-being strategy. And the key word here is holistic. The experts at the McKinsey Health Institute agree. They argue that providing employees with a meditation app is, and this is important because it is a valid intervention to support employee mental health, but it cannot address structural issues. The UK's National Institute for Health and Care Excellence recommends taking an organisational level approach as the foundation for good mental well-being, and only then layering on top individual level interventions. And that's complex. So what leaders really need is not a secret at all. It's a comprehensive framework. And in that framework, you'll find three things: measurement, driver analysis, and a playbook of evidence-informed interventions. The first step is measurement. Measure both how your employees feel and why they feel that way. Just as the scarecrow on that original yellow brick road sought wisdom, so too should business leaders. So take a photo or even a video of the next slide where I'll provide recommendations for measuring employee well-being and share it widely to support business leaders with gaining the wisdom they need. You ready? Next slide. At the World Wellbeing Movement, we recommend measuring the 4 key dimensions of employee well-being: job satisfaction, happiness at work, negative stress at work, and sense of purpose. Combined, these provide us with a holistic overview of how people feel about the work they do. But these science-based questions are just the tip of the employee well-being iceberg, because they only tell us how people are feeling, and they tell us nothing about why they're feeling that way. To figure that out, you need to look below the surface, because there are so many factors that drive our well-being at work. Our pay and conditions, our manager, whether we have a sense of belonging, a sense of appreciation, whether the work we do is energizing, whether we have flexibility, trust, scope to learn and grow. There are so many drivers of our well-being at work. Measure them all. Just like the world's #1 job site Indeed do with their work well-being score. And if you missed LaFawn Davis's talk yesterday, make sure you catch up online. It's a goodie. The next step is driver analysis. Dive into your data to identify the poorest performing drivers of well-being at your organization. After all, effective solutions can only be devised when we fully grasp the root causes of challenges. Then target your work well-being initiatives at those drivers, at the poorest performing drivers of well-being at your company. Forget wizardry. Follow the science. But don't stop there. Share that data with your employees and ask them for their thoughts, their inputs, their ideas. And at this point, you need to shut up and listen. And that might just help you with the next step, which is to identify which evidence-informed interventions you should invest in. The World Wellbeing Movement can help here too. We've partnered with the Wellbeing Research Centre at the University of Oxford, and with support from recruitment company Indeed, we've published a concise playbook which summarises evidence-informed interventions organizational level interventions, group level interventions, and individual level interventions, and categorizes them by the 12 drivers of employee well-being. Let me give you some examples from the playbook, supported by a few familiar friends. Remember our heroine, Dorothy. On the surface, her goal may have been to find her way home, but she was also seeking a sense of inclusion and belonging. Her journey entailed exploring her identity and establishing meaningful relationships with a diverse group of people. The latest high-end academic research shows that not only is belonging an often overlooked driver of our well-being at work, but when compared with other drivers, it has a disproportionately large impact on how we feel about the work we do. The Work Wellbeing Playbook, which you can access on our website, concisely summarizes numerous evidence-informed interventions to drive inclusion and belonging. But what about the lion? He felt unable to speak up, share his thoughts, or confront his fears. Similarly, employees may feel restrained from speaking up due to fear of judgment, interpersonal conflict, or unsupportive managers. When a voice is stifled, trust and psychological safety erode. I recently interviewed the world's leading authority on psychological safety, Professor Amy Edmondson from Harvard, for the Working on Wellbeing podcast by the World Wellbeing Movement. Here's how she defined it. Okay, so you're going to have to listen to the podcast. That wasn't planned, but hey. Listen to the podcast, but what I will say is it's that feeling that you cannot speak up, you cannot share your ideas, you're afraid to do so. The lion almost certainly lacked psychological safety, but it was probably more than that. He might have lacked job security, he might have lacked autonomy, or he might not have been the right fit for his current role. A mixture of organizational level, group level, and individual level interventions would be needed to holistically support the lion's needs. From flexible working policies to participatory performance review processes to job crafting and redesign, manager training, and more. Let's not forget, of course, the Tin Man. He sought a heart to experience emotions. In the end, he realized he had a compassionate heart all along, as demonstrated by his acts of kindness. But do we bring kindness to the workplace? The literature tells us we should. And there are so many interventions that can support, from organization-wide peer recognition programs, to new joiner and manager training, to fully paid volunteer days off, even decency as a performance objective. Of course, the real breakthrough for the Tin Man in this story was identifying his own inner strengths. People leaders can support employees with improving their sense of purpose if they can help them identify and better leverage their strengths. And of course, purpose is the theme of today's conference. All of the characters on that original yellow brick road had their own purpose that they were pursuing. But it differed for each of them, as it so often does in real life. A one-size-fits-all solution was never going to meet all of their needs. Although there is no secret and there is no magic formula, and all interventions do have their limitations, most organizations start to affect positive change when they combine multiple interventions, organizational level interventions, group level interventions, and individual level interventions across multiple drivers of employee well-being. And there is a comprehensive framework and a playbook of evidence-informed interventions that business leaders can leverage in their ongoing exploration, adaptation, and growth. You can find the playbook I've been referencing on our website, and you can listen to the Working on Wellbeing podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I leave you with the words of our incredible co-founder, the wonderful Professor Lord Richard Layard. Let's put wellbeing first. Thank you.